He thought no one noticed, but every shadow told a story. The penthouse in Seoul was quiet, almost eerily so, with sunlight spilling in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long golden rectangles across the polished oak floors. The air carried the faint scent of jasmine from the vase in the corner, and for a moment, everything seemed suspended in time. In the kitchen, the black maid, stood frozen, a small, folded envelope clutched tightly in her hands, her knuckles white against the soft paper. Her breathing was shallow, almost synchronized with the distant hum of the refrigerator, each sound exaggerated in the stillness. She knew every step that might break the fragile equilibrium, every shadow that could betray her presence. Somewhere above, the elevator chimed, and the soft whir of its motor told her the boss was coming, sooner than she had anticipated. She pressed a finger to her lips, whispering, "Stay quiet," though the words were meant only for herself, as if repeating them could anchor the rising panic within her chest. Her eyes darted toward the living room where the Persian rug lay, intricate patterns catching the sunlight in shifting mosaics, and she knew she had to move to conceal the envelope before the boss's sharp gaze found it. The sound of the key in the door echoed through the hallway, each metallic click sending a ripple through her body, a silent alarm of impending discovery. Maya's mind raced, recalling the careful steps she had taken that morning, the precise placement of items to maintain the illusion of an empty, orderly house, the meticulous choreography of her work to avoid drawing any attention. She moved on tiptoe, every movement deliberate, the soft leather of her shoes barely whispering against the floor, her hands guiding the envelope behind a stack of thick, hardcover books on the lowest shelf of the mahogany bookcase. The hallway light caught a strand of her hair, shimmering faintly as she tucked it behind her ear, and the reflection in the polished brass doorknob reminded her of the stakes in this silent game. The door opened, and Kim Jun-ho, the Korean Mafia boss, stepped inside, his tailored navy suit immaculate, the scent of his cologne lingering in the air, a faint trace of cedarwood and leather. His eyes swept the room with the practiced precision of someone used to noticing everything. Yet in that moment, they lingered on nothing in particular, giving Maya a sliver of time to breathe. She straightened, smoothing the creases in her uniform, projecting calm she did not feel, and in the quiet, her heartbeat became a metronome counting down the seconds, each one a test of nerve and composure. The sunlight shifted slightly as the elevator doors closed above, the penthouse returning to its gentle hum of domesticity. Yet the tension persisted, an invisible thread connecting the movements of the maid and the boss, each step a question and an answer in the silent dialogue of presence and observation, a delicate balance that might shatter with the slightest misstep. The sound of Kim Jun-ho shifting his weight in the hallway seemed amplified in the stillness, each step a quiet drumbeat that pressed against the fragile bubble of calm I had tried to maintain. She adjusted the stack of books with careful fingers, ensuring that the envelope remained completely hidden behind the thick spines, and she inhaled slowly, forcing herself to remain composed. Every inch of the penthouse felt alive with anticipation, the sunlight shifting slightly as if it too were holding its breath. Maya's eyes flicked toward the floor-to-ceiling windows where the city spread out like a glittering web of streets and buildings, the hum of distant traffic blending with the soft ticking of the wall clock. She knew that the moment Kim Jun-ho would notice anything out of place was approaching, and yet she clung to the rhythm of her breathing, using it to anchor herself. The aroma of fresh coffee from the kitchen counter mingled with the faint scent of cedarwood from the boss's jacket, creating an oddly domestic backdrop to the tension that gripped her. She straightened a vase of orchids on the sideboard, the petals catching the light and reflecting a delicate pattern onto the polished marble surface, her movements precise enough to be almost ritualistic. Kim Jun-ho's shadow appeared in the doorway leading to the living room, and Maya's stomach tightened, her muscles tensing as if ready to spring, yet her expression remained calm, neutral, composed. She recalled the morning she had arrived early to organize the penthouse, the countless hours spent learning the boss's preferences and habits, each small detail etched into her memory, providing her with the tools she needed to navigate this moment. As the boss stepped fully into the room, his eyes scanned the furniture and decor with the casual authority of someone accustomed to command. Yet there was a subtle softness in his gaze, a brief pause that suggested curiosity rather than suspicion. Maya's fingers brushed lightly against the envelope hidden behind the books, a silent reminder of the stakes at play, the secret contained within that simple folded paper capable of shifting the delicate balance of trust. She took another slow breath, and the faint click of the boss moving a chair, adjusting a cushion, created an almost imperceptible soundtrack to the scene, each sound exaggerated in the heightened awareness of the moment. The sunlight angled through the windows, casting shadows that stretched across the floor, the interplay of light and darkness echoing the tension and secrecy that filled the space. Mai tilted her head slightly, allowing a strand of her hair to fall neatly behind her ear, a small gesture of composure that belied the rapid calculations running through her mind. Kim Jun-ho paused by the side table, picking up a small sculpture, inspecting it with the practiced eye of someone who notices everything yet sometimes overlooks the tiniest detail when distracted. Maya's heart continued its steady but intense rhythm, a silent partner in the dance of observation and patience, and for a brief moment, the two of them existed in a suspended equilibrium, each aware of the other, each aware of the unspoken stakes, the unvoiced consequences, and the silent tension that wove them together in this ordinary, yet charged afternoon. Inside the quiet of the penthouse, Maya's mind was a whirlwind of memories and calculations, each one sharp and precise, like a compass pointing toward safety. She recalled the mornings when she first arrived, the careful attention she had paid to every corner, every object, learning not just the layout of the space, but the habits of the man who now moved through it with measured steps. Kim Jun-ho's presence was both commanding and oddly comforting in its familiarity. Yet today it carried an unfamiliar tension, a ripple that suggested the world outside had shifted, and he was bringing that shift back into the sanctuary of the apartment. Mai adjusted the folds of her apron as if straightening her resolve, her fingers brushing against the smooth wood of the bookcase where the envelope remained hidden, the subtle texture grounding her in the moment. She remembered the first time she had learned to anticipate his moods, the small signs, a flicker of the eyes, the tilt of a shoulder, teaching her that perception could be a shield, that attentiveness could turn fear into advantage. Kim Jun-ho, meanwhile, moved with the grace of someone accustomed to observing without revealing his own thoughts, his eyes briefly catching the glint of sunlight off a polished surface, a silent acknowledgement of the care taken in the room's arrangement. Maya's thoughts drifted momentarily to the letter itself, the paper folded neatly, yet containing something heavy, a responsibility that had chosen her as its guardian. She felt the weight of that responsibility in her posture, in the precise way she held herself, knowing that any careless movement could betray the secret she protected. The city beyond the windows seemed distant, a quiet hum under the warm light of late afternoon, and yet its presence was felt, a reminder that the world outside always intruded, even here in the carefully controlled environment of the penthouse. As Kim Jun-ho passed by the sofa, his attention appeared to settle on the arrangement of cushions, the subtle symmetry he seemed to appreciate, and Maya's chest rose and fell with the rhythm of contained tension, each breath a silent plea for calm and composure. She recalled the quiet victories of previous days, small acts of foresight and diligence that had gone unnoticed, but which had prevented disruption and maintained the illusion of order. In this moment, those lessons coalesced into a single strategy of patience and poise, a plan executed not with words, but with the careful orchestration of body, gaze, and gesture. The sunlight shifted once more, and the shadows lengthened across the floor, forming patterns that mirrored the careful alignment of objects and intentions, as if the room itself were conspiring to protect the secret hidden in plain sight. Maya's eyes met the reflection in a crystal vase, a fleeting recognition of her own determination and the quiet intelligence that guided every movement. Kim Jun-ho paused, listening to a distant sound, perhaps a vehicle passing on the street below, his gaze momentarily unfocused, and Maya allowed herself the tiniest, imperceptible relaxation, the briefest acknowledgement that the tension could be maintained without faltering. In that shared silence, the room became a theater of anticipation. Each breath, each subtle shift of dialogue between two people acutely aware of stakes and trust, a conversation of presence and restraint that neither needed a voice, yet both understood with clarity. The soft click of Kim Jun-ho's shoes against the polished floor echoed through the penthouse, blending seamlessly with the muted hum of the city outside the windows, and I felt the subtle vibration of anticipation in the air, as if the entire room were holding its breath. She took a measured step toward the sideboard, ensuring that the envelope remained completely hidden, her fingers grazing the smooth surface with a deliberate gentleness that betrayed none of the tension inside her chest. Her eyes flicked toward the large window where the afternoon sun stretched shadows across the floor in long, golden streaks, and she imagined the patterns as lines guiding her every movement, a silent choreography of careful calculation. Kim Jun-ho paused near the bookshelf, his attention caught by the arrangement of leather-bound volumes, and he tilted his head slightly, a hint of curiosity flickering in his expression, though it did not settle on the hidden envelope. Maya adjusted her stance, her posture straightening imperceptibly, projecting a calm she did not fully feel, and she reminded herself of all the quiet mornings she had spent studying the rhythms of his presence, learning to anticipate the smallest gestures that could signify a change in mood or focus. The subtle scent of polished wood and fresh jasmine filled the space, creating a strange comfort amidst the tension, a sensory landscape that both grounded her and heightened her awareness of every small sound and movement. She remembered the first few weeks she had worked in this apartment, the meticulous attention she had paid to detail, the way she had learned to move with silent precision to maintain the illusion of order, a skill that now felt more valuable than ever. Kim Jun-ho's gaze shifted toward a glass sculpture on the side table, the afternoon light refracting through its curves and casting dancing reflections onto the walls, and Maya allowed herself a controlled exhale, the momentary lull in attention granting her a brief measure of relief. Her mind raced with possibilities, each action considered, each decision weighed for consequence, as she navigated the narrow space between concealment and exposure. The envelope pressed lightly against her palm beneath the stack of books, a tangible reminder of the responsibility she carried, and she felt the gravity of. That responsibility in the alignment of her shoulders, the steadiness of her hands, the careful precision of her gaze. Kim Jun-ho moved again, the sound of his tailored suit brushing against the arm of a chair adding another layer to the intricate symphony of subtle noises that filled the apartment, and I mirrored his movements with silent adjustments, a dance of presence and awareness. The sunlight shifted once more, elongating the shadows and creating new patterns on the floor, and she imagined the room itself participating in the quiet negotiation of control and observation, every detail a part of the unspoken conversation between them. As she glanced at the envelope one final time, her eyes caught the faint reflection in the crystal vase, a perfect echo of her careful poise, and she allowed herself the smallest, almost imperceptible smile, an acknowledgement of the inner strength that had carried her through this delicate balance, a silent testament to patience, intelligence, and composure that neither voice nor gesture could fully capture. The afternoon sun began to shift toward the west, painting the penthouse in warm, amber light that softened the edges of the polished surfaces and lent a calm backdrop to the otherwise taut atmosphere. Maya remained poised, her hands lightly brushing the polished wood of the sideboard as if it were a natural extension of her awareness, every movement precise and intentional. Kim Jun-ho stepped toward the large window overlooking the city, his reflection merging with the skyline in the glass, creating a layered image that mirrored the complexity of the moment. The envelope remained hidden, pressing gently against her palm through the stack of books, a silent reminder of the responsibility that had settled on her shoulders like a weight both serious and vital. She recalled the countless mornings and evenings she had spent learning the penthouse, the subtle routines that defined Kim Junho's patterns, and the quiet vigilance that had taught her to navigate not only space but presence. A slight shift in the floorboard beneath Kim Junho's steps made her catch her breath, though she did not move outwardly, her body remaining still, almost merging with the shadows that lengthened across the oak floor. The soft clinking of crystal from the nearby bar cart punctuated the room, each sound amplified by the quiet, and Maya's awareness of each auditory cue heightened her focus, guiding her movements with precision. She thought of the letter she was guarding, the weight of its significance growing in her mind, each fold increased a testament to its importance, and she felt the responsibility not as a burden, but as an affirmation of her own capability and integrity. Kim Junho adjusted a framed photograph on the side table, the movement deliberate and measured, and Maya's eyes followed the gesture with the exactness of one who understood the subtle interplay of observation and action. The afternoon light shifted once more, brushing across the floor in golden stripes that traced the contours of furniture and architecture, and she imagined each line as a guide, a silent path to maneuver without drawing notice. Her heartbeat was steady, synchronized with the quiet rhythm of the penthouse, and she allowed herself the faintest exhale, a microcosm of relief within the ongoing tension. The city beyond the windows remained distant but present, its low hum a reminder of life, continuing outside the carefully contained environment of the apartment. Maya's gaze flicked back to Kim Junho, who now stood near the armchair, his attention partially focused on the angle of sunlight across the cushions, yet she sensed an underlying awareness in his posture, a subtle alertness that reflected his constant attunement to the world around him. She moved slightly, adjusting a cushion in a gesture so natural it seemed part of the flow of the room, all the while keeping the envelope perfectly concealed, and felt the quiet satisfaction of successfully navigating another delicate moment. In this shared silence, every glance, every measured breath, and every minute shift in position became a conversation, without words, a testament to the understanding that trust, vigilance, and patience could convey more than any spoken sentence. And in that quiet coordination, the room itself seemed to acknowledge the careful balance that held them both suspended in a state of poised awareness. The late afternoon light continued to spill across the penthouse, casting long shadows that stretched along the polished oak floors, creating a pattern that seemed to echo the careful choreography of every movement within the space. Maya's eyes traced the lines of sunlight as she moved with deliberate precision, adjusting a stack of magazines on the coffee table, while keeping her hand close to the hidden envelope, feeling its weight through the pages and reminding herself of the responsibility she bore. The subtle scent of jasmine in the air mingled with the faint aroma of cedar from Kim Junho's suit, a sensory layer that filled the room with an understated calm despite the taut energy that lingered. Kim Junho stepped toward the kitchen area, his polished shoes making soft contact with the floor, and I noted every slight sound, every minor shift in posture, understanding that his awareness extended to even the smallest details. She recalled the times she had quietly observed him, learning the rhythms of his presence, the way he moved when focused or relaxed, and she drew strength from that understanding, using it to anticipate the unfolding of this moment. The sunlight caught the edges of a crystal vase on the sideboard, creating a scattering of light that danced across the marble surface, and Maya allowed her gaze to follow the reflections, integrating them into the mental map she maintained of the room and its objects. Each breath she took was measured and controlled, syncing with the subtle hum of the city beyond the windows and the faint ticking of the wall clock, grounding her in the precise timing required to maintain composure. Kim Junho's attention lingered on a sculpture on the side table, his head tilting slightly, a flicker of curiosity crossing his expression, yet he did not approach the bookcase, allowing Mai to preserve the secrecy of the envelope's placement. She adjusted a cushion on the armchair with careful hands, smoothing the fabric so that the gesture seemed natural and unremarkable, a quiet act of presence that masked the intensity of her internal focus. The apartment itself seemed to participate in the moment, the shifting light, the soft reflections, and the quiet hum forming a backdrop that heightened the awareness of both observer and observed. Maya's mind traced back to the small victories of previous days, moments when her attention to detail had prevented mishaps, reinforcing her confidence and guiding her through the delicate present. The envelope remained secure, a tangible symbol of responsibility and vigilance, and she felt a quiet pride in the ability to maintain the balance of secrecy and calm. Kim Jun-ho moved once more, this time pausing near the sofa, his gaze momentarily scanning the room as if reading the subtleties of its arrangement, and Maya's posture remained flawless, every movement calculated to project serenity and control. The afternoon light continued to shift, elongating the shadows and highlighting the textures of the furniture, and she integrated these visual cues into her navigation of the space, ensuring that her every gesture aligned with the natural flow of the room. In that shared silence, the unspoken dialogue between them persisted, a subtle understanding of trust, observation, and quiet resilience, the room alive with the interplay of attention, patience, and unvoiced communication that bound them together in the careful orchestration of this suspended, tension-filled afternoon. The soft glow of the late afternoon sun had begun to fade, leaving the penthouse bathed in a warm, amber hue that seemed to stretch time itself, making every movement deliberate and significant. Maya's eyes remained fixed on the envelope hidden behind the books, the weight of responsibility pressing lightly against her palm, yet grounding her with a steady focus that transformed anxiety into resolve. The subtle hum of the city outside reached her ears, a distant reminder of the world continuing beyond the sanctuary of polished floors and high windows, a backdrop against which the careful dance of observation and discretion played out. Kim Jun-ho moved with the quiet assurance of someone attuned to every detail, his gaze lingering momentarily on the arrangement of cushions, the polished surfaces, the precise placement of everyday objects that signaled order and control. Maya adjusted a vase of flowers on the sideboard with hands so steady that it seemed an effortless extension of the room itself, smoothing the petals and aligning the stems as if the simple act of care could convey calm to the space and to the man who watched, though without direct acknowledgement. She recalled previous mornings spent anticipating his movements, learning his habits, the small gestures that revealed attention or distraction, each memory serving now as a silent map, guiding her through the delicate choreography of presence and restraint. The afternoon light caught the edges of a crystal sculpture on the side table, scattering reflections across the walls in patterns that shifted with the sun, a visual rhythm that mirrored the subtle dance of glances and measured motions between them. Every sound, from the soft scrape of a chair leg to the distant hum of traffic, was magnified in awareness, each note a potential sign or misstep, and yet Mai moved with quiet precision, synchronizing her gestures with the rhythm of the apartment itself. Kim Jun-ho's shadow fell across the floor as he leaned slightly to inspect a photograph on the side table, the gesture casual but deliberate, and Mai allowed herself a momentary pause, acknowledging the delicate timing required to maintain equilibrium without revealing the envelope. Her mind traced the sequence of careful decisions that had brought her to this point, the silent victories that reinforced her ability to manage risk and anticipate observation, all converging in this brief, high-stakes moment of measured calm. The city outside shimmered in late sunlight, distant and indifferent, yet its presence added a layer of gravity, reminding her that the apartment was not an isolated world, but a carefully contained space within a larger, unpredictable reality. Mai shifted a cushion on the armchair again, a motion so small yet purposeful, integrating it seamlessly into the ongoing patterns of movement and attention, and she felt the quiet satisfaction of navigating a complex situation with intelligence, patience, and composure. The envelope remained hidden, the secret intact, and in the mutual awareness of observer and observed, the penthouse seemed to hold its breath, every surface, shadow, and reflection participating in the silent, unspoken understanding that balanced tension, vigilance, and calm into a single, cohesive presence that neither needed to be voiced nor broken. The golden hue of late afternoon had deepened into a soft amber, bathing the penthouse in a glow that made every polished surface gleam and every shadow stretch in elongated patterns across the floor. My moved with deliberate care, her hand brushing lightly against the smooth edge of the sideboard as she adjusted a small stack of coasters, each motion calculated to preserve calm while maintaining her inner vigilance. The envelope remained securely hidden behind the books, a constant, tangible reminder of the secret she guarded and the responsibility she carried with quiet strength. Kim Jun-ho stepped closer to the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawling beneath him like a living tapestry, its distant hum barely audible through the glass, yet adding a subtle rhythm to the atmosphere of controlled attention. He paused, his gaze lingering on the patterns of sunlight reflecting off the glass surfaces within the room, and I felt the slightest shift in his awareness, the faintest sign that he sensed the careful order maintained throughout the space. She moved smoothly, nearly blending with the shadows along the oak floor, adjusting a folded throw on the sofa so that the room appeared effortlessly perfect, every gesture a silent dialogue of composure and skill. The subtle scent of fresh jasmine mingled with the faint aroma of cedar from his suit, filling the room with a serene backdrop that contrasted with the heightened alertness of every step and glance. I recalled the early weeks she had spent studying the apartment, learning the boss's habits, the cadence of his movement, and the minute cues that hinted at focus or distraction, and she drew on that experience now to navigate the present moment without error. The sunlight shifted again, scattering reflections from a crystal sculpture across the polished surfaces, a visual rhythm she integrated seamlessly into her own perception of timing and space. Her heartbeat remained steady, measured, syncing with the quiet rhythm of the penthouse and the faint ticking of the wall clock, a silent metronome guiding each gesture. Kim Jun-ho moved to inspect a small decorative object, tilting his head as if reading the story it told without breaking the flow of his authority, and I mirrored the rhythm with her own subtle adjustments, her body poised and unnoticeable. Every sound, from the soft scrape of shoes to the faint click of a hinge, was absorbed into her awareness, each one an opportunity to refine her position and maintain the balance of concealment. The city beyond remained a distant, quiet hum, its presence both grounding and distant, a reminder that this carefully orchestrated space existed within a larger, complex world. Maya's movements remained fluid, precise, and unobtrusive, adjusting cushions, smoothing surfaces, aligning every detail without a thought, as if the room itself responded to her careful stewardship. In the shared silence, every glance and subtle gesture formed a conversation unspoken but deeply understood, a testament to the patience, awareness, and quiet intelligence that preserved both the order of the penthouse and the secrecy of the envelope, creating a fragile yet resilient harmony that neither voice nor explicit acknowledgement could enhance. The amber light of the late afternoon deepened, casting a warm glow that accentuated the polished surfaces and elongated shadows in the penthouse, making each movement seem deliberate and significant. Maya's eyes remained focused on the hidden envelope, feeling its presence as a constant, grounding reminder of the responsibility she bore, each second carrying the weight of careful decision-making. The quiet hum of the city outside blended with the subtle sounds within the apartment, creating a delicate backdrop that magnified every small gesture, every shift of position, and every breath. Kim Jun-ho's movements through the room were fluid, measured, and confident, his gaze sweeping over the furnishings with practiced awareness, lingering briefly on the polished wood, the crystal reflections, and the precise arrangement of objects that spoke to the order he valued so highly. Mai adjusted the folds of a throw over the arm of the sofa with subtle precision, aligning the edges so that the room appeared effortlessly organized, a demonstration of her quiet competence and attention to detail that went unnoticed but was profoundly necessary. The scent of cedar from the boss's jacket mingled with the lingering aroma of fresh jasmine, creating a sensory layer that made the atmosphere simultaneously calm and charged with anticipation. She recalled the careful observations she had made over weeks, learning the rhythms of Kim Junho's presence, understanding the smallest cues that indicated focus, distraction, or curiosity, and she applied these lessons now with exacting control to navigate the situation without a misstep. The sunlight shifted across the floor, scattering reflections from a crystal vase in subtle patterns that danced on the walls, integrating seamlessly into her awareness, guiding her movements and reinforcing her composure. Every sound, from the faint scrape of shoes to the soft ticking of the clock, became part of the mental map she maintained, each cue informing her understanding of the room's dynamics and her positioning within it. Kim Junho paused near a side table, tilting a small sculpture as if assessing its symmetry, and Mai mirrored the calm attentiveness with subtle adjustments, blending seamlessly into the rhythm of observation and restraint. Her heartbeat remained steady, measured, syncing with the quiet ambience of the apartment, the careful balance of concealment and presence maintained through patient awareness. The distant hum of the city reminded her that the apartment, while meticulously controlled, existed within a larger, unpredictable world, adding depth to the silent exchange between her and the boss. She shifted slightly to straighten a cushion, a motion both natural and purposeful, reinforcing the seamless flow of the room while maintaining the envelope's concealment. In this unspoken dialogue, every glance, every micro-movement, and every calculated adjustment formed a quiet communication, a testament to her intelligence, vigilance, and composure, sustaining the delicate equilibrium of observation and trust in the penthouse as the day waned into evening. The soft light of early evening began to settle over the penthouse, shifting the warm amber tones into muted gold, casting long, deliberate shadows across the polished oak floors and accentuating the textures of every surface. Mai remained poised, her movements measured, adjusting a stack of magazines on the coffee table with a subtle precision that concealed the tension underlying each gesture. The envelope stayed hidden behind the books, a tangible reminder of the careful vigilance she maintained, and she felt a quiet steadiness in the responsibility it represented. The faint hum of the city beyond the large windows filtered into the room, blending with the gentle sounds of polished furniture settling under Kim Junho's movements, forming an understated rhythm that guided her attentiveness. He moved closer to a side table near the windows, his eyes catching the reflections from a crystal sculpture that cast intricate patterns across the walls, and Mai's awareness of his gaze sharpened, a silent dance of observation and composure threading between them. The subtle scent of cedar from his tailored suit combined with the lingering aroma of fresh jasmine in the room, creating a serene yet charged atmosphere that heightened the sensitivity of every perception. Mai recalled the many mornings she had spent anticipating his routine, learning the cues in his posture, the tilt of his head, the slight shift of his weight, and she applied these observations now with careful precision to navigate the delicate balance of presence and concealment. The sunlight shifted again, throwing long lines across the floors and walls, a visual cue she integrated into her spatial awareness, allowing her to move seamlessly without drawing notice. Every small sound, from the soft scrape of her shoes against the floor to the gentle click of a hinge or the quiet settling of a cushion, was amplified in her attention, each one a signal to maintain poise and timing. Kim Junho paused near the sofa, his focus briefly on the angle of light across the cushions, and Mai responded with a subtle adjustment, smoothing the fabric as if it were part of the natural flow of the room, her motions controlled yet imperceptible. Her heartbeat remained steady, measured in rhythm with the subtle ambience of the penthouse and the distant pulse of the city outside, reinforcing the discipline that guided every action. The room seemed to participate in the silent dialogue with shadows and reflections acting as partners in the careful negotiation of observation and discretion, creating a delicate harmony that balanced awareness and composure. Maya's gaze moved momentarily to the hidden envelope, feeling its weight and significance, acknowledging the trust it represented, and she allowed herself the slightest internal affirmation, a quiet confidence in the precision of her movements. In that unbroken silence, every glance, every adjustment, and every mindful breath formed a coherent language of vigilance and understanding, a testament to the skill, patience, and quiet intelligence that preserved both the order of the penthouse and the secrecy of the moment, holding the space in a suspended state of attentive equilibrium as the day gradually transitioned toward evening. The soft light of evening had deepened, turning the penthouse into a study of shadows and warmth, each surface catching the fading sun in subtle, reflective patterns that made the space feel alive yet calm. Maya's eyes remained fixed on the hidden envelope, feeling its weight through the books, a constant reminder of the responsibility she bore and the careful vigilance required to maintain the delicate equilibrium of the room. The faint hum of the city outside provided a distant, steady rhythm that underscored the quiet tension, blending with the subtle sounds of polished furniture settling under Kim Junho's movements. He moved slowly toward the center of the room, his gaze sweeping the polished wood floors, the crystal reflections, and the arrangement of furniture with the practiced awareness of someone who noticed everything yet allowed some details to remain unseen. Mai adjusted a small throw on the sofa, her fingers moving with precise control, smoothing the fabric in a gesture so natural that it seemed an effortless extension of her presence and her quiet command of the room. The scent of cedar from his suit mixed with the lingering aroma of jasmine, creating a sensory atmosphere that was simultaneously calming and charged with awareness, each detail sharpening her focus without disturbing her composure. She reflected on the routines she had observed over the weeks, the subtle gestures and shifts that indicated attention or distraction, and she applied those lessons now with deliberate care to maintain the secret without detection. The amber light caught the edges of a crystal vase, scattering patterns across the walls that moved subtly as the sun dipped lower, and I integrated these visual cues into her spatial understanding, allowing her movements to remain seamless and unnoticeable. Every sound, from the soft scrape of a chair to the faint ticking of the clock, became a part of the ambient rhythm she used to guide her actions, ensuring that every gesture aligned with the unspoken language of observation and discretion. Kim Junho paused near a side table, tilting a small sculpture to inspect it, and I mirrored his stillness with a subtle adjustment of a cushion, blending perfectly into the rhythm of the room. Her heartbeat remained steady, synchronized with the quiet pulse of the penthouse and the distant hum of the city, reinforcing the patient, precise control she exerted over her movements. The sunlight continued its slow retreat, elongating the shadows and highlighting textures across furniture and walls, a reminder that each detail mattered in the intricate balance of concealment and observation. Maya's gaze returned to the envelope one last time, feeling the tangible presence of her responsibility, and she allowed herself a brief internal acknowledgement of the skill and vigilance that had carried her through this moment. In that shared silence, every glance, every measured gesture, and every breath formed a quiet dialogue of intelligence and trust, a testament to the disciplined awareness and patience that preserved the order and secrecy of the penthouse, holding both her and Kim Junho in a suspended harmony as evening settled gently over the city below. The evening light had softened into a gentle twilight, filling the penthouse with a muted, golden haze that caressed every surface and stretched the shadows across the polished floors. Mai moved with deliberate care, her hands brushing lightly against the sideboard and the surfaces she adjusted, each motion precise and unobtrusive, maintaining the calm appearance of the apartment while preserving the secret hidden behind the books. The envelope pressed lightly against her palm, a silent weight reminding her of the vigilance and patience she had cultivated over countless days. The faint hum of the city outside provided a distant rhythm, a subtle counterpoint to the soft sounds within the room. From the slight creak of polished wood under Kim Jun-ho's shifting weight to the gentle settling of cushions and fabrics as she smoothed them with careful attention. He moved across the room with the quiet authority of someone accustomed to observation, pausing briefly by a side table and adjusting a decorative item with deliberate care, his gaze sweeping over the arrangement of furniture, the reflections from crystal surfaces, and the subtle textures that defined the apartment. Mai responded with an equally precise adjustment, aligning a throw over the sofa in a way that appeared natural yet reflected her meticulous awareness of detail, every gesture calculated to maintain composure and concealment. The subtle aroma of cedar from his tailored suit mingled with the lingering scent of jasmine, a sensory combination that heightened alertness without breaking the calm, reinforcing the nuanced interplay of presence, observation, and restraint. She recalled the patterns she had observed in his movements, the slight shifts of posture, the nuances in attention, and she drew upon those observations now, seamlessly integrating them into each motion and adjustment. The sunlight had faded to a soft glow that reflected gently off crystal vases, scattering intricate light patterns across walls and furniture, creating a rhythm that she wove into her perception and timing. Every faint sound, the soft scrape of a shoe, the subtle tick of the clock, the rustle of fabric, was recorded in her awareness, a guide to measured movement and a silent affirmation of control. Kim Jun-ho's eyes lingered on a framed photograph on the sideboard, the angle of the fading light accentuating its detail, and Maya's subtle adjustments echoed the careful rhythm, her movements blending seamlessly into the ambient energy of the room. Her heartbeat remained steady, measured and composed, synchronized with the quiet pulse of the apartment and the distant hum of the city, a reinforcement of discipline and attentiveness. The room itself seemed to participate in this unspoken communication, every reflection, shadow, and surface contributing to the silent exchange of awareness and restraint. The envelope remained secure, the secret intact, and in that suspended silence, every glance, every micro-movement, and every breath formed a continuous dialogue of trust, intelligence, and composure, preserving the balance of the penthouse and the delicate harmony between observer and observed as twilight deepened into evening. The soft evening light had fully settled into the penthouse, casting long, delicate shadows across the polished floors and creating a gentle gradient of amber and gold throughout the space. Mai moved with careful precision, her hands adjusting the placement of a small decorative tray on the sideboard, each motion deliberate, fluid, and unnoticeable, a silent testament to her composure and attention to detail. The envelope remained hidden behind the stack of books, its presence tangible against her fingers, a constant reminder of the responsibility she had carried and protected throughout the day. The subtle hum of the city outside mixed with the gentle ambient sounds inside, the quiet settling of furniture, the soft rustle of fabric, and the faint ticking of a clock, creating a harmonious backdrop for the careful choreography of presence and awareness. Kim Jun-ho moved near the center of the room, his gaze scanning the reflections from the crystal sculptures and the polished surfaces with a keen sense of observation. His posture relaxed but alert, as if attuned to both the space and the person maintaining its delicate equilibrium. Mai responded with small, precise movements, smoothing the edge of a throw on the sofa and realigning the cushions, gestures that appeared effortless yet were underscored by her meticulous control. The interplay of cedar from his suit and the lingering scent of jasmine in the air created a subtle sensory layer, one that both calmed and heightened their awareness, reinforcing the shared attention to detail that held the room in balance. The fading sunlight reflected off the crystal vase on the sideboard, scattering delicate patterns across the walls that shifted with the subtle movements of the penthouse, and Mai integrated these reflections into her mental map of the room, ensuring her gestures and shifts remained imperceptible. Every sound, every reflection, Every shift of light contributed to the nuanced dialogue that passed silently between them, a conversation conveyed through presence, awareness, and composure rather than words. Kim Junho paused by a chair near the window, adjusting its alignment so that it mirrored the precise order of the room, and mine mirrored the subtle rhythm with her own gestures, keeping the envelope perfectly concealed while maintaining the seamless appearance of casual arrangement. Her heartbeat remained steady, synchronized with the gentle rhythm of the penthouse and the distant hum of the city beyond, a quiet affirmation of her poise, intelligence, and patience. The room seemed alive with a shared, unspoken understanding, each reflection, shadow, and movement forming part of a delicate equilibrium, a silent communication that bound the two in mutual awareness. In this final moment of twilight, every glance, every gesture, every breath was an affirmation of careful vigilance and quiet mastery. The envelope safely hidden, the penthouse in perfect order, and the suspended balance between observer and observed maintained with subtlety and precision, leaving a profound impression of composure, intelligence, and trust held entirely within the shared silence of the space.